Hey everybody, Robert from Black Belt Gaming, getting Dragonslayer back on the table here and continuing my read through. Dragonslayer is a mixture of BXD&D and AD&D First Edition, and it's very similar to the way I grew up playing and learning the game. I am a big fan of playing Barbarian themed characters. So I remember back in the day when Conan the role-playing game came out by TSR, I was absolutely thrilled. And I actually still have that game and would like to cover that again and dive back into that one sometime. But we're at the Barbarian today, and I'm going to warn you in advance, this is the first class, maybe the only class, in Dragonslayer that I dislike. And I'm going to save that for the end so that you can just stop listening if you don't want to hear my criticisms of it. So I don't want to sour you on this game at all, but I would have done this one differently. But let's go through it. I'll read to you what is here. The Barbarian, as you can see, is a savage frontline warrior. You start as a brawler and become a reaver, berserker, axe master, and eventually a barbarian king. The attack bonus for the barbarian is like that of the fighter. Hit points are also like that of the fighter at a D10. The barbarians are hardy northern warriors known for their ferocity and prowess in battle. They enter a translite berserk rage in melee combat. Their battle fury ignores pain and heightens their strength and endurance. Barbarians believe the spirits of animal predators drive their bloodlust, and they wear wolf or bearskin headdresses in battle. When enraged, barbarians froth at the mouth, bite their shields, and howl as their totem animal. They are distrustful of magic users, illusionists, and eldritch magic items. Barbarians must be of a chaotic alignment, and to play a barbarian, you need to have a strength of 13 and a constitution of 13. And only humans, no half-orcs, only humans can play as a barbarian in this game. The starting gold is a little bit less for barbarians than it is for fighters. 2d6 times 10. Barbarians may use any weapon but are limited to leather, studded leather, chainmail, and a shield. Now, to get the experience point bonus for a high ability score, it's clarified in this class that you need to have a 13 in both Constitution and Strength to get the 5% experience point bonus. This was not clear in the other classes that had two ability score requirements. Like, you know, say for the monk, he had a minimum Strength, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Dexterity. Prime requisites were intelligence and wisdom. To get an experience point bonus for the monk, for example, does it need to be either one, intelligence or wisdom? I don't know if they would double the experience point bonus if they had a high score in both. That seems to be too much. That would be like a 20% experience point bonus. That seems to be too much. It's just not clear with the druid either about how that works. But with the barbarian, it clearly states you need to have the high score in both. So it kind of might make things clear to stress that for the other classes too that have double prime requisites. Just a thought. Totem animals. A barbarian must select a totem spirit animal. These are large apex predators, and it includes but not limited to the wolf, the bear, the panther, the lion, the giant lizard. Berserk Rage. This is going to be their primary class feature. Barbarians may incite a berserk rage once per day, and it lasts for 1d8 plus 1 round per level. When you're enraged, they receive a +1 to hit and +2 to damage on their attack rolls, +3 temporary hit points per level. However, they receive a -2 to armor class, and I guess that's because they're sort of raging and not in full control of their actions, because they always attack the closest opponent. This includes chasing down a fleeing opponent. And I don't think it says they're going to attack an ally. It says an opponent. So they're not going to go crazy and hit their friends. But after the rage concludes, after the rage is finished, they're at -1 with all their attack rolls until they rest for 1 to 3 hours. A Berserk Barbarian can continue to fight even if wounded below 0 hit points. If they're reduced all the way to -10, they're going to die. But a Barbarian reduced to 0 hit points or below can continue fighting, and then after the battle, they'll drop dead. So that's how that works. Taunting a Barbarian may induce the Berserk Rage. So if they're being taunted, they need to resist that with an intelligence check. Ability score checks in this game are just simply a d20 roll, and you look at your score, your ability score, and you need to roll that score or less to succeed. Thief abilities. Barbarians may move silently, climb walls, hear noise as a thief of the same level, but the move silently and climb walls ability will be canceled if they're in anything other than leather armor. So I guess you can sort of imagine Conan there sneaking up to Thulsa Doom to attack him there towards the end of the Conan the Barbarian movie. He wasn't wearing his chainmail that he had been wearing earlier in the movie, or the heavier armor. He is in virtually either no armor or very light leather armor at that time. Henchmen. Barbarians never hire henchmen or hirelings, and they prefer to keep all the glory of battle to themselves. Barbarians scorn magic. They distrust magic, and they openly scorn magic user and illusionists, but they revere druids and shamans. So the restriction is that barbarians refuse to use miscellaneous magic items until level 3. So I believe, I don't have the Unearthed Arcana open at the moment, but where the barbarian appeared, I believe, first in the old AD&D game, I think there was a restriction that they couldn't even be in a party of adventurers that had magic users or illusionists in it. I may be remembering that wrong. I need to look at it again, but it just says they don't like them. They don't trust them, and that just look at that more as a role-playing thing. But the actual restriction is they just refuse to use miscellaneous magic items until level 3. But if it's like a magic weapon or something like that, I don't, magic armor, I don't see that they will refuse that. So I think the miscellaneous magic items are some of those other items outside of weapons and armor. What sorcery is this? By the way, that miscellaneous magic items, the reason I'm saying that is how it was classified in the old AD&D First Edition Dungeon Master's Guide. That's how I'm thinking. I haven't looked in this book in the magic section yet to see if it's classified in a similar way. I feel like it might be. I'm just flipping back there now. Magic items. Yeah, it's got things like ever-burning candle and gem of brightness. I think these kind of things, horn of blasting, maybe it would put those in this category. Let me see if we have anything with weapons. Magical swords, weapons, and armor. That's in a separate category. So I guess if you just look in the general magical items section, they won't use those things, but perhaps the armor is fine. And they're not going to be using wands and staves and rods, I don't think. So I guess you'll just have to make a maze controller or dungeon master call here to see if they would use a ring or not. They might not. Potion, you have to make another call there maybe. So we'll have to think about how restrictive that should be. What sorcery is this? A barbarian has a 4% passive and an 8% active chance per character level of seeing through an illusion or phantasm. Oh, okay. 4% or 8% per level. Cry Havoc. For each barbarian in a party beyond the first, the duration of the Berserk Rage is increased by 1 die. So 2 barbarians instead of a d8 plus 1 round per level is going to be 1d10 rounds plus 1 per level. For 3 barbarians, they're going to roll a d12. So I guess they just sort of help make each other berserk. So by the time you get to 4, it's going to be 1d12 plus 2. So it doesn't jump up to a d20 at that point. Single-minded, any act, spell, spell-like ability, or magic item that confuses, weakens, or induces fear in a player character is unlikely 50% to affect a barbarian. I guess what I like about this is that it's just a flat 50%. I think you can sort of imagine Conan at the end of this first film, Conan the Barbarian, where Thulsa Doom puts his hand on his shoulder and is trying to sort of confuse him with his speech there at the end. I think when he kind of snaps out of it and attacks Thulsa Doom with his father's broken sword, maybe he was single-minded here and sort of rolled successfully to resist that magical influence. Coward Sense. A barbarian has an 8% chance per level of detecting a backstab or any melee attack from behind. I guess what that's saying is that if you roll under this percentage, you cancel the melee attack bonus and double damage coming against you from such an attack. It just says detect. So I'm assuming that's what that means. Saving throw bonuses, they do have a better chance at surviving some things with a +2 against breath weapon attacks, a +4 against death, stone +3, wand +3, and spell +2. And then there's the fast packs that you can choose from to create your character. So just a couple of things before I get into my criticism. I think I want to take a look at the whole thing about hit points and death. I wonder if I should come to that later. I'm just wondering something about this. It goes about the combat round. I guess I'm going to have to flip around and find that, but I'm just wondering if the barbarian fights into the negative. Let's see, death and dying. Here it is. It's on page 255 of my first printing book. When a PC reaches 0 hit points, they die. But there is a following optional rule that can be used. If you are at 0 hit points exactly, you're unconscious for 1d6 rounds and then receive 1 hit point. You might be able to be killed by 1 more attack from a monster. If you're -1 to -9, you can save versus death, and a save results in unconsciousness for 1d6, receive 1 point hit point when you revive. Failure is death, and -10 is dead, no save. So if we go back to the Barbarian and we're using their Berserk Rage, if they hit 0, I'm sorry, if they hit -10, they're dead, dead, dead. Save is not going to make any difference. But here it says if they're at 0 or less, but not -10 yet, they're going to die as soon as the battle is over. So if you're using this optional rule, let's say they're fighting into the negatives and then they drop unconscious, this +4 to death saves is pretty nice. If you take a look at their starting death save, a first level Barbarian has a death save of 14. If they get this +4 bonus, that's actually going to become a 10. And so that gives them a pretty good chance of surviving, even though they may be into the negative hit points. So I kind of like that. And -10 or below is just too much. They are a dead, dead character. Okay, so just dropping a trigger warning here. I don't want to put a damper on anyone else's excitement about possibly getting or playing this game. But I really like Barbarians, and I just don't like this write-up, and I'll let you know why. So I'll sort of do a little countdown here and then get to my criticisms, okay? 3, 2, 1. What I dislike about the Barbarian here is that, number one, the thing that I remember growing up and being so excited about with the Barbarian write-up in Unearthed Arcana was that the Barbarian was the first class I had ever seen that had a D12 for hit points. Why was that taken away? I don't understand why that was removed. My guess is that maybe he's replacing the randomness of the D12 in leveling up. Maybe he's putting that into the Berserk Rage, where you get 3 hit points per level when you go into a rage. Maybe that's okay. I can see some of the reasoning there, but when you look at the artwork for the Barbarian here, I mean, armor, heavy armor, is not what keeps him alive. It's his hit points. It's his just ferocity. I really think he should have gotten his D12. I really, really do. I think that was... I wouldn't change the bonus to hit points from the rage, but I would have given him a D12 hit points per level. I would have kept that for the Barbarian, and probably the Barbarian only. I really think that should have stayed. So I'm disappointed that that was not included here with the Barbarian. The Barbarian write-up as it is now with its Berserk Rage reminds me of the Barbarian write-up that was in Castles and Crusades in earlier printings, and I didn't like that. In fact, I found it true with the older Castles and Crusades and this game. I dislike this write-up so much that it makes me almost not want to play the game in its entirety. Castles and Crusades revised their Barbarian, and what it's become now is much better than what it used to be. It used to be like this. And what I mean is you go into this rage, and your armor class gets worse, and then you're fatigued afterwards, and you're just penalized for what should be your class's shining ability. And I really dislike that. And then what I dislike even on top of it is that you can taunt a Barbarian into his rage, and that can totally troll a Barbarian into using his rage for the day. And he can only use it once per day. And so you know, troll him at the bar before you head out to the dungeon, and then he can't rage all day at the dungeon. I mean, it's just, I just dislike it. So if I were to make a simple fix, my philosophy would be don't penalize a player for what their character should do best. Don't put penalties in there with it. Let them shine for that moment. It is a limited duration. You know, some of the other classes get their ability at all times. The Barbarian's time to rage is limited. Let them shine. Let them have the spotlight for that moment, and don't penalize them for doing it. And then don't penalize them after they've done it. And so what I mean is this -1 to hit for 1d3 hours. It's just, that's not a good game mechanic to use. It makes me really not want to play this class. And so I would say keep the Berserk Rage with its bonuses and with its time limit, but just throw out those penalties. That's what I would do. No worsening of your armor class, and no fatigue that follows you around until you rest for 3 hours. I just wouldn't put that in there. That's what I would do. The other things I can live with as they are. Just little nitpicks would be that instead of these 4% per level and 8% per level, why not just give a flat percentage? Even if all of them are just 50-50, it's just easier. It's just easier to remember instead of calculating like this. You're still going to have to calculate, I guess, your moves silently and climb walls and hear noise and all that. But it's not necessary, but it's just a little criticism I have of needing to calculate 4% per level and 8% per level. I don't think I would have done it that way. That's just my opinion again. The coward sense, you know, has that same 8% per level. I still probably would have gone something like Castles and Crusade, which says, you know, just half the amount. So if they're getting a plus something to attack you from behind, just cut that bonus in half. Just keeps it easy. You don't have to roll for it. And yeah, give them their D12. If you don't want to change that, if you want to keep them at a D10, maybe pull from Old School Essentials. I think it was a suggestion for humans to give humans a little bonus. Let them have advantage on hit point rolls, so that when they roll for hit points, when they level up, let them roll twice as a Barbarian and take the better of the two results. So those are my two quick fixes: advantage on hit point rolls, and then take away any penalties for the rage, and completely remove the taunt. I consider that to be a penalty against the rage. Just remove the whole taunting and getting them into their rage when they don't want to. Just take that out. That's so open to abuse. All right, thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll catch you later.